Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the Bundesliga Show. We are here for some, match week 7 reflections after another busy weekend of football in the Bundesrepublik. Here to dice it down all with me is Mark on the other end in Nuremberg. How are you, Mark? How's your weekend been?
Yeah, not bad at all. Obviously, got to a game myself as well. The trusty Max Morlock Stadion, and as per usual, Nuremberg didn't manage to conjure up the goods in the game. They played a lot better, got a point from it, but a late equaliser denied them a rare win with me in attendance. I believe it would only have been. I actually calculated recently the number of games that I've seen Nuremberg win, and it's only 5 out of 33. Incredibly,
Wow.
yeah. So it's round about 1 in every 7 games. I've seen Nuremberg live 33 times in my life, and I've seen them win only 5 times from those 33. So yeah, that's round about 1 win every 7 games by my calculations. So not bad, and considering most of them are at home. Pretty much all of them, apart from one, were at home. It's not exactly a very good record, is it?
Not the best strike record ever, is it? But nonetheless, it looked like you had a class time. Obviously, as we put on our socials, which it always looks great at the Max Morlock for sure. I mean, my weekend got to watch a bit of footy, a bit of pumpkin picking. Of course, seems to be the fun thing to do these days. So I had a very pleasant weekend doing that, and then all my teams won, which is very rare. So great weekend for me. Really can't nudge that whatsoever. Ready to dissect what's happened in the Bundesliga across the weekend. Lots of interesting results, entertaining games for us to kind of ponder over the next hour or so. Sit back, enjoy along with us. Make sure you do leave a like on this video, comment along. Good morning / good evening to you, Justin. Thanks very much for saying hello and joining us, and everyone else that is watching live or subsequently. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Got lots coming up over the next month or so, and as well with a couple of Matchday vlogs, probably not too far around the corner. Lots to enjoy on the channel in the next few weeks or so. Make sure you check out our 2 partners as well, of course, Covert Football Trips. Head over to @Covert Footy Trip on socials, and make sure you check them out. Some great weekends away, especially in Germany as well, and of course our brilliant partners with Bully News as well. Right, well, I think, Mark, there's probably only one place that we need to start, hence the title of the show and everything associated with it. Big weekend, that we had, and it was very much shaped around. Well, not shaped around, but there was a lot of talk, of course, around the Klassiker between Bayern and Dortmund. Obviously, the final score being 2-1 to the home side. Bayern getting over the line in what was maybe it was a kind of traditional De Klassiker match. It didn't have as much chaos in it, I felt, as previous seasons had done. Bayern set out early on, Mark, very controlled. I suppose before we get into the hooks and crooks of it, a couple of interesting kind of team news bits, I suppose, were that for Dortmund, Süle got his first start of the season, and in came Pascal Gross as well. It was his first start since match week 3. Gnabry had to drop out for Bayern, allowing Nicholas Jackson to get a start, as well as a highlight for Joshua Kimmich, as he made his 302nd appearance, which made him draw level with Lothar Matthäus in the record appearances for Bayern. We'll kind of get into the impact of those kind of main highlights for me from a team news perspective. The first half, it was all Bayern, wasn't it? Kane, and I think we're going to talk a lot about Kane as well in this match, but he helped start one of the big chances of the game from basically his own half, where he does well to start an attack, and I think it's Diaz that ends up being set up for a good chance. But the goal comes in very just easy fashion, straight from a corner. Kimmich right onto the forehead of Mr. Harry Kane for 1-0. Nice and easy as you go. Just went over the head of Guirassy at the front post. Not the best marking from Dortmund in that sense. As the half drew on, same kind of fashion, really. Bayern very dominant. Elise hit the post, or the edge of the post at least, and it was 1-0 at the half. Mark, so yeah, first half, very controlled from Bayern. What were your kind of initial thoughts about the way the game was going? I guess you didn't have too many... I guess you weren't inspired by what Dortmund had put on the pitch in the first half at the very least.
No, I think the problems with the BVB started with the lineup, to be honest. I think Sula coming in for this game was pretty bizarre in many ways, to be honest. I mean, the fact that he got hooked very early on in the game isn't a surprise either, in truth. I mean, that was a pretty, clumsy decision in my eyes to start him for a game. I know in the past he has done well against Bayern, obviously the former Bayern player, but I mean, to come in for a first start of the season in a game of this magnitude was a little bit strange. And also, I think we've got to mention the lineup as well, that obviously they went with the formation, I should say. I mean, Guirassy was very, very isolated, wasn't he? And then they almost had Nemecha playing wide in the game, which was quite bizarre, to be honest with you. And they almost had two deep line wingers alongside two wing backs as well, with Svensson and Ryerson. So I mean, what Kovac was trying to do there, I'm not quite sure. And at times Guirassy was extremely isolated, particularly in the first half, but in truth for more or less the whole match, really. I just felt as though he got it wrong in this game. I didn't think Bayern really had to play that well to win the game, to be honest. I mean, the first goal was also disappointing from a Dortmund perspective. I mean, it's just like a looping corner in, isn't it? And then Harry Kane probably thinks he can't believe his luck that it's landed on his head with no one anywhere near him. And it's a kind of very strange corner goal, really. I mean, normally when you see goals from corners, it's a really well-worked routine that kind of drags the defense out. But this was just a simple ball in, really. It was a good delivery, of course. It was in the right area. But normally defenses are on top in that area, really, that close to the 6-yard area. So that was disappointing. But I think Dortmund kind of grew into the game, and they did have a few half chances. I felt as though, their XG of 1.37 in the end is quite okay for a trip to the Allianz. There's a lot of teams that go away with less than that. The goal they eventually scored was a really well-worked move as well, actually. Rierson's brilliant ball in and Julian Brandt with a nice finish. That was probably the goal of the game, ironically, because Bayern's two were both very kind of scrappy, really. I mean, we got to talk about the second goal as well, which, Joe Bellingham should have done a lot better to clear that. And he kind of clatters it against Elise, who won't score a scrappier goal in his career, to be honest. A man who's used to smashing them in top corner from 30 yards has basically got a goal off the back of his shin, basically, there, hasn't it? I think BVB weren't terrible, but I also didn't think it was Bayern's most stellar display of the season. I think that could have been partly to do with the fact that Gnabry obviously got injured, and he has been brilliant this season too. I feel as though Jackson as a number 9 didn't really have that much ball in the game, in truth, and it was mostly Kane again who was kind of the leader of that team, even though he dropped back into like a 10 role for this game.
He did.
But credit to Bayern. I mean, if you can beat Dortmund playing probably in, I'm not going to quite say third gear, but just a little bit higher than that, then it's still a good win. It's the first Bayern win in 3 attempts. As I say, the previous 3 had ended up in 2 draws and a BVB win. So good win for Bayern again. It's yet another win for them, 21 points through 7 games. Kane now on 19 goals in 11 games for Bayern this season, which is crazy. It really is. Everything that Bayern are doing is crazy right now. And as I
Mhm.
said, this was probably one of the weaker performances, and particularly attacking, I felt, this season. But they were still able to overcome a strong Dortmund side who were unbeaten before this game. But yeah, Bayern march on for BVB, I guess. Yeah, probably got it tactically wrong for me a little bit in this one.
Yeah. Yeah, I like what you picked up there in terms of the Dortmund team. Yeah, things aren't quite working out for Job, Bellingham. Yeah, just a bit of clumsy play on the line, wasn't it? And Elise was very smart to slide in and made the most of that opportunity. Yeah, quite shocked that Dortmund actually came back into the game and scored a good goal, like you say. So I think before we move on from this game, because I don't think we've learned a lot from that game, to be honest. You can, if you've got anything that you've learned, you can say. But one thing I'm interested about is like Dortmund. Well, two things. Dortmund are clearly a lot better now under Kovac. He's done really well with them. I don't know how they go to Bayern's level, to be honest, right now. So that's one thing that I'm asking you. And then the second thing is that with that Gnabry injury and the fact that Jackson played, I don't think he played well, Jackson, overly well, that is. But it made Kane shine even more. He was all over the place, defending, winning duels, the lot. So like his pass for that second goal was silly good to start off the move. So does the fact that Kane now being able to maybe operate as a 10 give Bayern just another string to their bow? And I know he won't have to when like Musiala comes back and when Gnabry comes back, but he's learning that even better. Obviously, the age he is and getting better as a player, it just makes Bayern an even stronger team, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I think that is a position we're going to see him play more in potentially in the the later days of his career, because it's not really a position where you have to run that much. But I think he's extremely good at it as well. And he's always been a player that's been able to drop deep, hasn't he, and spread those amazing passes. And it's just something that makes him even better than a lot of the kind of goal-scoring number 9s out there, because he's got more to his game. And I think there was a quote coming out from one of the Bayern hierarchy. I can't remember who it was, but he said, if we'd have realised that he was going to get better every season, then we'd have given him another 2 years, basically, on his deal. I think they were discussing about opening talks. Obviously, his deal ends in 2027, but I mean, just about everyone in the world is going to be after him right now, because I think last season as well, but this season even more, he's just been he's probably the best player in the world right now for me, actually. Probably him and Haaland are the best players in the world. I think he's that good, really. And even for England, if you watched his games against Serbia and Latvia, I know some people would say, okay, it's not world beaters as such, but he just looks so good for England as well. And he is just getting better. And I honestly believe, I think I said it on Thursday, that I think the move to Bayern has really made him a better player overall. Yeah. And I think it's a big B in the Bundesliga's cap that players can come over here to Germany and become better than they were in the Premier League. And I genuinely believe he has become better. He's a more cultured player now. He's not just that out-and-out number 9, which he was at times for Tottenham in his early career. Obviously, he'd already started to develop his style of play a little bit at Tottenham towards the last 2-3 years. But, I mean, he has been brilliant, basically, this season. And also last, too. Basically, ever since he came, but particularly this season and the second half of last, I would say, is when he's really coming to his own. But, yeah, as for Dortmund, can they get as good? I think the simple answer to that one is no, not with this squad. Because if you just look at the quality of players, it's simply not as good, man for man. I mean, are there any players from that Dortmund side who get in the squad, let alone the 11 for Bayern? I mean, let's be honest, maybe Guirassy is a backup striker. Guirassy, you'd still have him over Jackson. But aside from that, maybe Schlotterbeck over Upamecano, possibly. But even then, it's not a shoe-in, is it? The likes of Svensson and Rierson have done well, but come on, you can't compare them really with the likes of Lima. It's just the midfield's a different grade as well. Kimmich has got back to his absolute top grade this season. Pavlovic continues to excel. Goretzka when he comes in. And then obviously they've got the kind of luxury players really of Elise and Diaz, who are just like, a team like Bayern can afford players like that. Other teams just simply can't. But this is a very strong Bayern team. And in my eyes, they are either the best or very, very close to being the best in Europe right now. And I think for the BVB, we've always said it, Rory, really, this isn't the strongest 11 they've had even in the last 5 years, let alone in the history of this club. I think it's, on paper, it's still a relatively average BVB 11 compared to what they've had in the past. And I think at times it showed in this game, but they're still going okay. It was the first defeat in the season. They've done well in Europe. And I think if they can have another good run in the Champions League, qualify comfortably for the top 4 this year, and then maybe win the Pokal, it'll be a good season for this squad, really.
Yeah, for sure. I think, like you say, it was just highlighted by the Bayern kind of display. Just in saying Bayern could have easily won 3-0 or more at half-time. Dortmund got lucky to get a respectable scoreline, which is a fair shout. And good evening to Jakob as well, tuning in. Right, we shall move on to a more, helter-skelter game, which was indeed Mainz 05 versus Bayer Leverkusen, ending 3-4 or 4-3 to Leverkusen. This match was kind of won a couple of times, I guess, Mark, because they kind of stretched out to the away side, stretched out to a 3-1 lead and a 4-2 lead, didn't they, during the course of this crazy match? Another Bundesliga classic, which is obviously what we love. Before we start talking goals and game, I thought interesting points out of this was that Jonas Hoffmann got his first start of the season, and obviously that ended up being a positive, and a rare start for Verachnik. He also had a part to play, but maybe not so much in a positive sense, because if we now run forward into the game, it's the latter. It's the two players I mentioned. Hoffmann gets tripped by Verachnik for a penalty to give Grimaldo an opportunity, and he does the business from the penalty spot for 1-0. Plenty of chances thereafter before Kafane gets another goal. Did really well, some nice play on the edge of the area before smashing in at the edge of the box to make it 2-0. To the away side, after that point again, there were a couple more chances. Chance for, I think it was Holleback from a corner before they got level. Not got level, before they brought it back to 2-1. This time from a classic long throw-in. And I think we need to talk about how we're seeing football trends as well, which I want to talk about in a sec. But some bad play by, I think it was Bade, naffs up his clearance and it falls to the feet of Lee, who finishes from close range. That's 2-1. Leverkusen then stretch out again. Poor play from Mainz, leading to Hoffmann being able to set up Grimaldo again. This time in free and open play, and the Spanish magician very coolly whips it into the back of the net for 3-1. And then that's half time, although Nabel also hit the bar from a cross, basically. Could have been 3-2 there. Pretty mad half, Mark, in Mainz, but obviously Leverkusen got out 3-1 there. And, some good goals, some good play overall. But are we seeing, I think this can be said for not only Bundesliga, but across the Premier League, we're seeing it as well a bit. There's a big emphasis and reliance almost that I've noticed this season on set pieces. Whether it's, your standard way of corners or free kicks, but the long throws making a comeback. Good old Rory Delap style. Teams are working out the best way of putting pressure onto opposition, and if it's fair play. Like if a team isn't up for it and is not making their challenges and their winners, then it's really going to come back and haunt them. And that's obviously how Mainz got themselves back into the game. Do you think that the set piece maestros that we have in the Bundesliga are going to benefit, from more of an emphasis on this, and teams might struggle to defend if it's becoming even more of a trending thing?
Yeah, I definitely think it's definitely been something that's getting bigger, obviously in the Bundesliga, but also in other leagues like the Premier League, which is quite ironic because for I guess for like a 5 or even 10-year period since Guardiola, everything seemed to be about playing football on the ground, for years, didn't it? And there are times when I watch teams and I think, why are you playing it out of the back? Seriously, because I don't know if you ever watched this, Rory. Obviously, you watch mostly Stuttgart and obviously United, so that they are better players. But sometimes you watch lower league teams like in the Zweite Liga, and it's like cringe watching them trying to play it out of the back. They've just not got the skill level to do it at times, And I think in some ways the long throws and the set play is kind of like a kind of antithesis to that, basically, really, in many ways. I think a lot of teams have realized that not every team can play the Guardiola way, basically, And when you've got £1 million players, you can do that, the likes of Leverkusen can do it. But if you're down the bottom of the league or you're in the second flight, it's a good idea just to get the ball in the box, I find. Like, I remember the days when Sam Allardyce's teams used to do it, and they'd finish top 6 in the Premier League playing like that. And every free kick would be lumped. It didn't matter if it was on the keeper's box. It'd be lumped forward into the edge of the penalty area, and Kevin Davis would win the header, and they finished top 6 or even 5th doing that, I think, one year. And I think it is a good tactic in my eyes. I've always liked the tactic personally, because I think, especially for teams that are more physical and maybe not the most talented technically, I think, why not? You can turn over these big teams, because a lot of these like fancy footballers, particularly the defenders, these guys who like to bring it out of the back, they don't like winning like long throws, basically, where it almost looks like a rugby match at times. But I personally, I'm a fan of it, actually. I'm happy they brought it back, and I like the fact that free kicks are kind of getting lumped into the box a bit more now. I think it's a good kind of contrast to the silky, playing it out from the back and everything about transitions in midfield, I think. But it's definitely something, as you say, Rory, even the more established managers in the Bundesliga, Company's been trying to use corners as well. And even the bigger teams now, they realize that a corner is more than just like aimlessly swinging it into the box. You can actually get goals from it. And I think it's good to see better set-piece routines across the board. And we are starting to see goals from it, as you say. I mean, there's been a lot of goals from corners and free kicks this season in the Bundesliga.
Yeah, no, absolutely interesting to see how that trend continues or disappears. Thank you for the question as well, left-footed, about Cologne. We'll answer that for you very shortly indeed, about the Billy Goats. But for the rest of this match, I mean, like exactly what you've talked about, Mark. Some more chances came for Leverkusen off the back of Mainz trying to play out the back, trying to do it the right way, trying to play football. Grimaldo always had a hat-trick from a mistake that happened by Mainz. Although the home side got an opportunity to get back into the game as substitute Nordan was fouled in the box. And after a VAR check, it was fine. So Miri, of course, former Leverkusen boy, put it past Flecken. So that's 3-2. So game on again. But a couple of, not a couple of forgotten men, but certainly in the shape of Terrier, Mark, gets the goal, come back for it. He's been injured forever. I mean, maybe another string to Leverkusen's bow, and a very fresh-looking team. Ben Shagir, who we haven't seen loads of, does well to get the cross from the in from the left, and it's a bit of a scramble, and Terrier ultimately gets lucky because he kind of mishits the first one, doesn't he? And then manages to get into the back of the net. And then you're thinking, game over again. However, it's a nice play again from Amiri being involved in everything good that Mainz do, and a lovely finish from from Sieb. Yeah, really nice into the top corner. So again, game back on late on. Although Mainz couldn't really create anything meaningful after that, the best chance after that was actually for Leverkusen breaking forward. And I think it was either was it Ben Shaqir who had the pass, the shot, and his effort was saved off the line by Sano, and that was that. So yeah, great game. Overall, lots of action, lots of shots. Kafane had a great many shots himself. So I think things are looking quite nice for Leverkusen. Obviously, their away record we've harped on about plenty. But they do now face a bit more of a trickier spell, I think, fixture-wise. So they've got over the line. In the game, they attacked, quite well, and I think the link-up play is starting to connect again, or connect for the first time, perhaps. Obviously, as a fresh team. The world-class Grimaldo is central to everything, of course. But I really like seeing Hoffman back in the team. Experience, a classy player. That's something that they can utilise. Then obviously they had Garcia and Palacios. No, is it Palacios in there?
It was Garcia and Fernandez.
Fernandez, sorry, yes. And I think Fernandez actually played quite well. Probably one of his better performances for Leverkusen. So things are starting to shape up quite nicely. Are we going to see Leverkusen? How far Leverkusen have come under Kasper Hjulmand in the next 3-4 weeks with the fixtures that they have?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of difficult to know what to expect from Leverkusen at the minute because, as I've said before, I think it's a totally different style of play we're seeing from Leverkusen now. I think it's very set play heavy, as you say. They're getting a lot of goals from Grimaldo. Basically, Grimaldo is running that team right now, even though he's still playing left wing back. But the guy is playing more like an attacking midfielder a lot of the time.
Just
to be honest,
front,
he's here, there, and everywhere. And I think. We talked a lot about the kind of upheaval that they suffered in the summer, but that is the one bright spot. They did manage to keep him, and my God, has he had a good season so far. He's absolutely killing it as the main man for them at the minute. I would even consider moving him to attacking midfield, giving him a go there, to be honest, because I think he always looks to be the main creator, both from open play and also he's the one putting all these free kicks and corners in as well. And he's just the main man for them. It's as simple as that. But at the same time, they still have issues too. They're a lot sloppier than they used to be. As you say, they almost let this game slip when they were very comfortable at halftime, really. And I didn't even think Mainz played particularly well. I am a little bit worried about Mainz, to be honest. I felt as though this was Leverkusen's game, and they should have won it more comfortably, ultimately. And as you say, they still had a good 4 or 5 minutes to get that leveler there, really, which would have been a sickener for Leverkusen if they'd have ended up not winning that game, because I felt as though they were far better. They had over almost 3.5 goals XG, which is very high away from home. Yeah. As you say, at times the midfield, Garcia seems to be starting to get like as a Bundesliga player now, doesn't he? And I felt as though some of the interchanges in midfield with Fernandez were really good. Hoffman starting was a complete shock, basically. I mean, he was tipped to go to Augsburg in the summer. Let's not forget that. I mean, his stock has completely dropped pretty much. So it seems as though Hjulmand has given him a fresh new lease of life a little bit. He was quite good in this game, not amazing, but he did okay, didn't he? Won the penalty, as you say. So, I think things are looking okay for Leverkusen. You can't, obviously, we're all going to set the benchmark for them now of the great unbeaten team, and it doesn't come close to that even now they're winning. The games are a lot less controlled. They lose control of games they should be comfortable in, which they weren't really doing, under Alonso. Only a couple of times, really, over the 2.5 years under Alonso, they lost control of a game like that. But as you say, they're still unbeaten under Hjulmand. They're now back up into the top 5, which is good. And they're not doing that badly at all, to be honest. But top 4 has got to be the aim. I think if they get top 4, it's a really good season after the upheaval.
And you said you're concerned for Mainz. So we probably don't match up maybe necessarily here. I really feel that Mainz's position is super, super false. because they played Leverkusen, Leipzig, and Dortmund in their opening 7. I think obviously, although the 4-0 loss to Hamburg was certainly an eye opener. Talk me through why you're a little bit concerned for Mainz. Is it because of Europe contention as well, or just what you're seeing? Because I feel like eventually that position will correct itself. But have you got more concerns about their season ahead?
Yeah, I'm concerned because they're losing games, basically. Yeah, I think they're losing too many games. They've lost 5 out of the 7 matches, and with only 4 points on the board, it's not great numbers at all, And I think the performance against Hamburg was, for me, the worst I've seen Mainz since we've been doing the show. I would go that, but I can't remember seeing a worse Mainz performance than that ever, basically. I think this game, they weren't actually that much better, I didn't feel, to be honest. That's why I'm surprised Leverkusen didn't win easier. I think early doors, they were getting battered, basically. It was 2-0 after just half an hour or so, and it could have been more in that first half, to be honest. I am concerned because I think Hollerbach hasn't really filled me with that much confidence for them. I think he's still working his way into the team. And defensively, they're all over the place, basically, Rory. I just feel as though, Bell and Da Costa, how many years can they keep rolling them out and expecting them to turn out Bundesliga standard performances? I mean, they're both ancient, basically, well into the 30s, and they've never been seen as like star performers. But obviously, Henriksen managed to get a tune out of them, basically. But Core has always got a red card in him. He got booked again in this game, and I also think the goalkeeper issue too. I mean, if you look since Lasse Riese came into the team, they've shipped 8 goals in 2 games. And I mean, Zentner has been getting better and better every season, so they need him back and fast. I think right now, I'm not really liking the look of that squad. They've obviously still got good players in there. I mean, Amiri, Sano, Nabel, Lee, Maveni on his day. They're good players, but the system isn't right at the minute, and they're conceding too many goals, and it's too easy to beat them at times for me.
Yeah, no, interesting points and completely fair enough. I think there was some quotes coming out of the match afterwards by Nabel saying that it's okay to lose, like don't panic sort of wordings. I think, which I thought were quite interesting as well. But anyway, we'll move on because there's lots of other games for us to kind of work through. I think we're going to work our way over to, I think we said, so we're going to do Friday night football and give a bit of attention and a bit of praise to Union Berlin and maybe not so much praise to rather struggling Borussia Mönchengladbach side. Before we get to Gladbach and kind of do the negative side of things, Mark, Union, they're doing exactly what they need to do, being really strong at home. A couple of really great wins already so far this season. They had a really, really strong start to this game. They were all over Gladbach, almost scored after 2 minutes, just a direct long ball. Kuhn down the left-hand side was awesome. I thought he had an excellent game, really, really direct, and gave it would have been Scally, I think, a really hard time of it throughout the match. They quite deservedly went 1-0 up through an Union Berlin manner from a nice set piece. Trimmel getting the assist for Doekhi to head nicely. Gladbach did almost equalise straight away. I think it was Kastrup who had a good chance. But after that, Köln again had a couple of good chances. And I think it was it him or no, maybe it was Anza who then had a great bit of play to almost score. And Doekhi, again, I don't know why he was there, but he's at the top end of the pitch, ready to pounce and make it 2-0. And I was so frustrated because I almost transferred him into my blooming fantasy team as well. So that I would have been buzzing with that. Although I had a better week this week, luckily. That was 2-0. Then, very much out of the blue, Gladbach get back into it. And another goal for Tabakovic. And you know what? Like, fair play to him, because we've given him a lot of shit on this show, haven't we? For his time so far in the Bundesliga. But I mean, right now it's not much, but he's probably Gladbach's best hope, which like I say, isn't much. But he's got a few goals for them, and he had a couple of chances he scored in the second half where it was done, rightly for an offside decision. So if it keeps on getting goals, it could be really important for Gladbach going forwards. However, and then interestingly, poor old Trimmel was subbed out of the game early because he was getting, I think he'd already been booked, hadn't he? And he was having quite a hard time dealing with Kastrup, who again is actually probably one of the brightest sparks. Which we'll be enjoying, Mark, from a Gladbach point of view. Definitely Kastrup and Tabakovic, the better players in that side right now. Then, second half, a lot more quiet. Like I say, a disallowed goal, a couple of half chances, until the free kick for Union that led to a poor half clearance, fell on the edge of the area to Rani Khedira, who smashed in a great volley, lovely technique and control for 3-1, and that very much was the game over. So really impressive performance, I thought, from Union from top to bottom. I thought they were really, they did all the basics right, which you would expect for an Union side, and well coached by Stefan Baumgart. But also that pace and power is something that we're now seeing again with them, that they have had before. If you kind of go back to the glory days of Taiwo Awoniyi and Geraldo Becker and players like that. And they had that kind of counter speed, which was really excellent to see. Really impressive. Really liked it. So do you want to quickly just give Union a bit of praise, and then you can slide your way into some Gladbach, lesser fun things?
Yeah, I actually think Union, this game was ultimately more Union being good rather than Gladbach being bad. I just felt as though Union had the tactics spot on, basically. I think they learned from the game against Hamburg, and you mentioned that Doekhi was really far up for that goal. I guess that's something that Stefan Baumgart had said, look for the rebounds and things, and I think they did that well in this game. That's what they've lacked, I guess, so far this season. They've not been able to get those scrappy goals that they used to be able to get, and they become a very kind of counter-attacking team. But this was a game they played on the front foot, basically, at home against a weak team in Gladbach, but they deserved the win. And as you say, it was a new side to Union that we've not seen for a while, actually. They were running at the defense. They seemed to have a bit more control over the game in this match. I felt as though it was a very, very controlled performance, actually. I think aside from the Tabakovic goal, which was a good finish, as you say, actually. But they didn't panic. They continued to be the better side for most of it, just the occasional chance from Gladbach. And I think a lot of it, Baumgart deserves credit. I mean, so many people had Union to go down, or at least finish in the playoff this season. So what they've delivered so far, 10 points from 7 games, is really good. I mean, they're going to be nowhere near the relegation if they carry on the way they've done so far. And I don't see any reason why they can't, because it's not been like one player's individual brilliance. It's been mostly a team effort that's been getting them by. I think Anza continues to be a star, really, doesn't he? I think he's been a great pickup from Paderborn. As you say, Derek Kerner, I think we both liked him at Werder and couldn't really understand why Werder didn't keep him. But to Werder's loss is Union's gain, ultimately, and he continues to be strong. I think we've seen a bit of a resurgence of Rani Khedira this season as well, who kind of gone a bit quiet the last 18 months, really. But I think we're seeing him back to his best in that midfield. The defence has always been the strong point, really, hasn't it? Later, Querfeld and Doekhi, we're not seeing the same mistakes. Weirdly, last season, they just started making loads of uncharacteristic mistakes for them. But I think now they're back close to the Champions League standard form. that we saw like 2-3 seasons ago. Because let's not forget that Late and Doekhi were part of that team as well that qualified, and also Renerve as well. So it's a strong team, really, and we're starting to see a bit more attacking input. It was quite interesting that Skarka started ahead of Burke in this one, which was somewhat surprising. But I guess it's Baumgart trying to kind of mix up his options a bit and show that he's more than just that front three. But I think everything going quite well for Union. I mean, they're not great every week, but, you know, they do win games on a consistent basis. That's a third win out of 7 games. And I think the system is perfect for the team, and you know they're doing the basics well, but a little bit more as well, as you say. So yeah, good performance from them. As for Gladbach, winless in 7, obviously, and whatever Polanski tries, it's just not working out at all, is it? And I think a lot of the problems start with the defense, that they're just not working hard enough. As you say, Joe Scally continues to be a liability at fullback at times. Moritz hasn't really had his bit. Moritz Nicolas hasn't really built on last season's form, to be honest. I think he's been quite weak. I mean, the second goal ultimately he spilled a shot, which led to a goal, which is always kind of the keeper's fault, ultimately, really. I think the midfield, Sander and Engelhardt isn't working at the minute. I think Wright is being played too far wide. Maybe I don't think it's his most effective position.
Yeah, agree.
I mean, for me, Dix obviously came with kind of high hopes, didn't he? But he hasn't really showed me why people rated him so highly. I kind of miss Ulrich, to be honest, again. I do miss him. I quite liked him. What was his name? Lukas Ulrich, I should say, yeah. But I thought he was quite a budding left back, but he's been obviously benched basically for Dix, and just nothing they try is working right now. Obviously, Tabakovic is the only one really getting goals for them. Honorar was benched. Sturger still can't get into this team. I mean, it seems as though they never seem to go with like out and out attacking midfielders. They never play a 10, so it just doesn't fit. And even Florian Neuhaus started up front in this game. I mean, it's just, for me, I'm going to be honest with you, I think they need a proper head coach. You know, I know this is like a kind of cliche from me over the years. But Polanski, I'm just not. I know they had a good start under Polanski when he got that 1-1 draw at Leverkusen and they looked better. But to be honest, the performances since then just haven't justified him keeping that interim role for me. And I think there's more than enough time in the season to not have to deal with an interim right now. And I just think they need to get in proper, commit to your next couple of years, you know, and get someone in and maybe save the season, because I still don't have Gladbach down as favourites to get relegated, because they've got a lot of good players. And remember, Kleindienst will come back, I guess, in the next month or so as well. So there is still hope for Gladbach. But, time's running out. The season isn't infinite, and 7 games have already gone. They've not won a single one of them. And they've got Bayern next week as well. So it's not good times, Gladbach. But I still feel as though that the start has got to be to get a proper head coach in and cut the ties with Polanski, I'm afraid. It's just not working with him.
Yes, that we are absolutely in agreement. I think a head coach is required imminently now, yesterday, last week, 100%, yeah. So we'll watch that with great interest to see what the club decide to do with their current setup. There's no point waiting for like the next international break. Football waits for no one, as you said, Mark. So I think it has to be done now. Interesting to see what our good friends Boston Gladbach make of all things going on. Okay, so we'll move on because lots of other games. So we'll try and cover them in some detail. We also wanted to talk a little bit about the Heidenheim Werder match. 2-2 this finished. There was a lot of great games this weekend, but this was a good 2-2 draw, quite an entertaining one. Of which, again, there's some interesting things just to pick out. I thought, Mark, Heidenheim, again, I keep on saying I feel like they're improving. Basically to see their performances really kind of pick up. More positivity for them is that Pieringer was back on the bench for the first time after being injured, so that's positive. First half, I thought they were really, really good. No idea how they weren't ahead in the match. Some great chances. I think, for the likes of Zivzivadze and Schöpner, quite frustratingly, they lost Kaufmann, who I've been impressed with. But Schwimmer came on and had a really good game as well. So that actually was quite good in the end. The returning Backhaus was super busy in net for Werder, made some really good saves, actually, to keep it 0-0. And then, ironically, as football goes in the second half, Werder take the lead through Gruhl. Nice 1-2 to smash it past Ramage for 1-0. But then, some good play by Heidenheim to get it back to 1-1. First goal for Schwimmer I think it was with his essentially his first touch. That didn't last very long because Werder went back ahead, this time through Stage. This time being unmarked from a nice cutback for, I think Schmidt got 2 assists in the game. So that was 2-1. Great character overall by Heidenheim to get back into it again. Furrenbach this time, making the most of being at the back post to head in ahead of the keeper from a cross ball to make it 2-2, and there were chances at the end for both sides to maybe win it. An XG mark of over 3 for Heidenheim, almost double what Werder's was. Heidenheim had 29 shots in the match with 12 on target. Just I think a bit of rightful praise for Heidenheim. Another point on the board. It's not much, but I think fair is fair. They've been bashed a fair amount, again, rightly so by us. But I thought they were really good in this game.
Yeah, I agree. I actually think the Fußball Club should have more points on the board. I mentioned it before. I think we both said it on Thursday, didn't we? That they're a better team than what the results have shown. And I think the big improvement has been in attack this season. They seem to have more ideas. At times last season, they were completely and utterly blunt, weren't they? I mean, they didn't, I think at home, they had like 8 or 9 games. They didn't even score last season. This year, they've had a lot more ideas, really. And a lot of that has been Mikkel Kaufmann, in my eyes. I think he's been really, really good.
Yeah.
Ibrahimovic too. He's not always, but he has done okay as well.
He's done all right,
yeah. I think obviously Zivzivadze came in for this game. He's not a player that I particularly rate at this level, and I'd probably go with Pieringer and Kaufmann if he's fit next time. Yeah. But, we're seeing a bit more form back from Traore, who was obviously like one of the guys who was key in the first season. He was one of the key actors, wasn't he, in that first season when they qualified for Europe. This was a good performance, as you say. I mean, to get more than 3 XG in any Bundesliga game is outstanding, really. They should have won it. Let's be honest. They should have won the game. I think the only criticism I give for Heidenheim is it's still too easy to score against them at times. They give a few soft goals away. I guess it's a very kind of slow defense, isn't it, really, with Searsleben and Meinke. They're not going to be ones that are running particularly fast, I don't think, are they?
No.
And then Furrenbach as well. These guys are all mainstays of that team that qualify for the top 4. But I just feel as though the legs have gone. Sorry, not the top 4, the top 7 they got. Or at least they got European football. But I feel as though the legs are going a little bit now. But obviously, they're still working hard. But overall, I think the fans are going to be entertained watching this team again. I think that there's not much more they can ask for than that. This is a team that doesn't have the money to reinvest and buy like top quality players. So they have to kind of make do with what they've got. And I think they're definitely doing that right now. They're scoring goals. They're entertaining. They're in every game. I can't really remember any game they got battered this season. I think the only game they played really bad was that first one against Wolfsburg. They were poor that particular day. But since then, every performance has been good in my eyes. I think even when they went to Leipzig, they created chances. They should have had more at Hamburg. They should have had at least a point at Hamburg, really. And there's still hope that they can survive this season, I feel. I don't think they're absolutely gone by any means yet, Heidenheim.
Yeah, and Werder, just on the other hand, quickly, just kind of plugging along. The same players are playing well for them. The likes of Gruel, Schmidt, involved, Steg, etc. Still no sign of Boniface being integrated into that starting 11. Nijma also was on the bench, I think. Still work to do for Werder. They're going along, but yeah, they need to start picking up points as well, Mark. Like this, there are games where they get blown out of the water. Obviously, they weren't blown out of the water in this game, but also conceded a couple of goals again. So I think, we need to keep an eye on what they are up to. So for the rest of this evening show, we'll do a bit of best of the rest, which obviously the other games that happened over the weekend. We need to make sure we cover Leipzig's win against Hamburg, which obviously a lot of people had marked down as a big scoreline. It was not. It was a close game, 2-1, thanks to goals from Baumgartner, really stepping up. A nice header and then a nice 1-2 goal for the Red Bull club. But Hamburg can be ultimately pleased, with their efforts, kept it close. Bit of a jammy goal, deflected one for Sambi Lucana. But yeah, highest foul mark. I mean, they've got to feel that they've now really arrived in the league, I feel, with the performances that they've done recently.
Yeah, again, they played well in the game, really. A lot of people thought they'd run them out. I think I went for a 3-1. I was a bit surprised that people were talking about a blowout in this game, really, because I think highest foul have been good the last 3-4 weeks. I think one thing we can say about this season is that I think there's only one team that you could say have been bad, really, and that's Gladbach, basically. I think the other teams have all done good jobs. I don't think there are many teams right now that are really underperforming, to be honest. The only two you'd say are Gladbach and Wolfsburg, basically. They're the only two you'd say are really underperforming. And I think Hamburg have become a solid side. They went with that same front three that we mentioned. They kept Dompe and Philippe alongside Königsdörfer. And that looks a lot better than what they were serving up early season. And as you say, Sambi Lokonga is a good player. It was a bit of a lucky goal in this one, but they kept Leipzig to a tight game at the Red Bull Arena as well. So they've got to take a lot of positives from that. They could have got another point on another day in the game. But obviously, Christoph Baumgartner is becoming a key player for Leipzig, isn't he? Obviously, he took him a bit of time to kind of really integrate himself into that lineup, but he's become, for me, he's one of the key men, if not the key man this season, really, I think, Baumgartner. And they're still not hitting their absolute top gear, Leipzig, but they're winning games. They're obviously second now, so they've got a 6-game unbeaten run with 5 wins. So I think all's relatively okay there as well. They came up against a tough tackling highest foul side and got the win, ultimately. Yeah,
I'm sure you'll be very pleased with that, Justin, although saying that Hamburg outplayed Leipzig in the second half. And also a nice comment from the Americana. We've beaten a murderer's row of BMG, St. Pauli, Köln, Heidenheim, and Wolfsburg. And I'll be honest, it's glorious. Yes, perfect segue into Stuttgart's 3-0 victory away at Wolfsburg. Mark, this was very much plain sailing, dominant away performance from VfB, which I had my worries about, which we talked about on Thursday because of mainly injuries. But the team that went out there were awesome. One-way traffic really was. I have no idea what Wolfsburg are trying to do. They seem like a team that are absolutely in the mix from a relegation point of view. They look lost. They were rubbish, I thought, and Stuttgart were really good. Any additions to that?
Not really, no. That was pretty much my analysis as well. Stuttgart looked like they're getting back to the best. I did like the formation for this game. I think it was very attacking. They showed intention, and I think that back three with Mittelstädt and Asignon is like the kind of far-fetched wing backs looked really good as well. And I think Andres and Stiller continues to look solid, and Tomas as well, the returning Tomas. The only one I was a bit surprised was to see Nate playing so far forward. That was a little bit special. But yeah, I guess it worked out okay. But I think the key men in this one were probably Tomas, Stiller, and Mittelstadt, really, weren't they? I think they played well. And as you say, Wolfsburg are just sinking. And all of a sudden, you're starting to look at Simonis and think, is he going to be the next one for the dump heap for them? Because it's now, they're getting worse every week. That the problem with them is that it started off and they were kind of getting unlucky, not winning games. But the last 2 weeks against Augsburg and Stuttgart, they've been annihilated, really. And defensively, they look poor. And as you say, with a difficult bottom kind of, I think the relegation is going to be a high standard this year. I don't see many bad teams in that region this time. And there's no obvious team you think are going to go down. So I think Wolves, we could see a shock potentially this year, and it could be a Gladbach or a Wolfsburg that go down this year, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Just picking up a question as well from VfB Americans. How surprised were you that VfB played so well without Demi, or are Wolfsburg just that bad? Probably a bit of a mix of both. I'll let you take this question, Mark, as I'll have my own bias about it, and you have your own thoughts on Demirovic. I think Nase played because they didn't want to throw Undav straight into the mix because he came off the bench, didn't he? And Nate is a player who's like a jack of all trades sort of a player, I think. But yeah, no Demi, but seemingly not an issue, certainly at the moment for VfB.
Yeah, to be honest, I've never really seen him as a key player for the VfB, as an outsider looking in. I mean, I've just never seen that. I think his record's good, but he blows hot and cold. And with him, I don't think he's the kind of guy you can rely on. He's either going to be really good and get you a couple of goals, or he's going to be absolutely awful, basically. And that's the way I see Demirovic in a VfB Stuttgart shirt. And I don't think he's the kind of guy you can rely on. So I think Tomas and Undav will probably be the go-to when Undav is fully fit, in my eyes. I think Tomas he looks an improved player since his time at Wolfsburg, and I think he has been good. He was also in the past a very hit and miss player as well, back in the days when Stuttgart were like kind of, dwelling down towards the bottom of the league. But nowadays, playing a better team, he looks a much better player for me. And I think that's a good front line. And I think the key is getting Stiller back to the top form. And I think we've seen that the last few weeks, because for me, he is the best player for Stuttgart ultimately. And I think if they can get him back working that engine again, it's going to be much better. And for me, this was his best performance of the season. And I think 5 wins out of 7, you can't complain as a VfB fan, really. I mean, it's Champions League form ultimately.
Yeah, third place, and very much agree. Yeah, good shout on Stiller. So lovely stuff for us VfB fans and supporters. Okay, so what have we not covered? 3-0 as well. Last game of the weekend as Hoffenheim overcame St. Pauli. Pauli, just didn't quite do enough from an attacking perspective. Mark and Hoffenheim have that in their locker. Although we talked about them having a good team, but they were dwelling lower in the league before this match. After a couple of disappointing results, they're back up and running with a couple of nice goals and performances. Anything to worry about from Pauli? As we said, in terms about the relegation point of view being really open, they started so well, but they've dropped down a little bit now, and performances have slightly dropped off also.
Yeah, I think, again, it was a classic Hoffenheim away performances. They are a very good away team, and the system is suited to the away system. I mean, there aren't going to be many teams in any football league right now in the middle of October where all of their points this season have come away from home. That's literally what we're talking about with them. All 10 of the 10 points have come away from home. So I think it's quite clear they need a system that works at home as well. But they're going to be around the European places, I think, really. I think they're a good team. They've really got a lot of impressive players there right now. And I think Aslani, Toure, Lempele, Berger, Avdullah, who have all impressed me. And Bernardo continues to be a strong signing as well. As for Pauli, sadly, it's just a case of the team just isn't that strong on paper. I think early doors they were playing really well, and I still think Blessing has got the right system. Let's not forget that Baumann made a massive save, then they had one cleared off the line too. Yeah, true. So if they'd have got that first goal, it was a different game, even though I felt as though, to be honest, Hoffenheim were the better side throughout the game. But they did have that one-on-one through Kars, who did okay. I mean, he got the shot up, but then I think it was Lager couldn't get the rebound, could he? And if you go 1-0 up, they'd probably get a point perhaps out of that game. But 4 defeats in a row, and then they go to Frankfurt this weekend. It's rough, top flight football can be rough for the weaker squads at the end of the day. And you are going to go on these runs where you go 6, 7, 8 games without a win. I still think it's not massively worrying because it's not like they've down tools or anything, but you have got to find a result from somewhere. And it's, as I say, the relegation race is going to be much harder this year than last year, where it was kind of obvious that it was, 3-4 teams from day one, really, let's be honest. But this year it's not obvious and continues to be hard to predict. So they are going to have to get at least a point from somewhere because, if you start going on 5, 6, 7 game losing runs, it's hard to get off that.
Yeah, no, agreed. Right, and just to finish off, a couple of draws. Freiburg Frankfurt was a fine game, really. Obviously, for the home side going up early doors through Shahan, then a couple of Johnny B goals, nicely taken ones as well, to get Frankfurt back ahead. You're thinking, okay, things starting to look a bit better for the Eagles, and they'll kind of take this win. But Grifo special at the end mark for 2-2, although you very much have to question where Santos was stood. From a positioning point of view, that just looked balmy. I don't know why he's given him so much space to aim at. And a player like Grifo will 100% score. So great to see Grifo scoring free kicks, trademark of his, in an entertaining 2-2 draw. So they can be separated. Norkut, Köln, and Augsburg. Augsburg going ahead. But super sub El Mala, very shockingly a sub, we saw come in and make a superb contribution and goal, saving a lot of people's fantasy teams at the same time as well, with a superb driving effort for 1-1 in, again, a decent enough game, but one where the two teams couldn't be separated there. And going back to the question from left-footed that we obviously have to give good attention to, Mark, just very quickly, basically the question, do we see Köln carrying on their good track record this season? They dropped down a little bit from where they were, but again, they're doing fine work, and it kind of feels like it will continue. The two teams that have come up have done excellently well, but FC even better.
Yeah, 11 points from 7 games is really good. This wasn't the best performance, to be honest. And I'll be honest, it is a little bit confusing why El Mala doesn't seem to get many starts. I did read that Kwasniok is a bit concerned about his fitness. I believe that's the problem. But so maybe he sees it as better to give him like the second half rather than the first half when the defenses. So I guess that's the logic behind starting him on the bench, because he does come on very early. Normally he's on no late. He gets at least half an hour every game. But that, I guess he just needs to do a lot of gym work and get fit, because he is a hell of a player. The 2 goals he's scored are just, and some of the assists, he looks like Messi, basically. It's like that standard, And he really does look a good player. So I would say if Köln are going to compete for Europe, I think they need to get him regularly starting, because he can unlock any defence in this league. Otherwise, I don't see them being anywhere near the relegation, put it that way, even if he does get injured or he can't play. I think it's a solid, hard-working team with a lot of good players in there. They probably won't be able to get Europe if El Mala doesn't get regularly onto the pitch for me, because he is the match winner, basically. He's like the kind of potentially world-class player in the future, I would say. So they do need to get more game time out of him. But I think it's all still going fine. Poor performance, but they still got a 1-1 draw out of a game against a very, very experienced Bundesliga team. So, it took a moment of magic to get the goal, and maybe a little bit of luck that it wasn't pulled up for a foul in the build-up as well. But still, I think it's still a good point, ultimately. You got to remember, as a newly promoted side, you're not going to win every game. It's as simple as that. And when you don't play well, like they didn't in this game, the XG was only like 0.5 or even less, I think, in this game. They didn't really create much. So, you've got to make sure you don't lose, and that's what they did in this game. So I think it's still a very good start, 11 points. But El Mala is the one that can take them to that next level and maybe get a top 7 finish for me.
There we go. We'll see. Super quick. Let's just do some European predictions. Champions League's back. Europe is back this week. Copenhagen, Dortmund. I will say a 3-1 away win.
Ooh, I guess that's going to be another one that Runa's at, right? Yeah, he's
Yeah,
getting
believe
it
so.
all, isn't he, with the Bundesliga? Yeah. I'll go for a 2-1 because I think, yeah, Copenhagen are normally quite good at home, aren't they? But yeah, I think Dortmund, they do win games in the Champions League. They always do. And they'll get a 2-1 win for me here.
Next big test for Leverkusen, PSG at home. Ooh, tricky. I will say 3-1 away win.
Oh, this is a really hard one to tip. Yeah. PSG haven't actually been doing as well this season, but I guess it's because of complacency in the league. I have read that they've been having quite a few poor results, but I do believe they're the best team in Europe overall, to be honest, the way they played in the Champions League last year. And I think they'll be fired up for this one in the Europa, so in the Champions League. So, I'm tempted to go for a draw. I just think Leverkusen will rise to the occasion. Go on, let me go for a 2-2 draw in this one. I've got a feeling Leverkusen is going to rise to it this time.
By all means. Bayern Club Brugge at the Allianz. I will say 4-0 to the home side.
4-1, I think. Yeah, I think Brugge are actually a decent team, but Bayern are just different grade at the moment. Yeah, so they're going to get the customary 4 goals at home. And I think Brugge will get 1, but 4-1.
Yeah, and a reeling Liverpool side go to Frankfurt. Hugo Ekitike returns to Frankfurt. So could be an interesting one, this. Arne Slot, you're under pressure, son. United have got your number. I'll go for a draw. Frankfurt need a big performance against a big team, and the way that Liverpool are playing, they should score goals. So I'll say 2-2.
Yeah, I could see the joy on your face there, Rory, saying that Liverpool are struggling. Yeah.
Oh yes.
Yeah, and obviously I've got to congratulate you on that famous win as well, really. I mean, it's the first time in a long, long time that they won at Anfield, isn't it? It's
been coming for a while.
Around about 10 years, I guess. But for me, yeah, they look quite poor, Liverpool. They are struggling, aren't they? But Frankfurt are also not winning games as much as they should be. There's going to be goals in this because there always are when Frankfurt go into a football pitch. So I'm going to go for a 2-2 in this one. Yeah,
2-2, very good.
Yeah.
Then Europa, we've got Stuttgart going to Fenerbahce, going to Turkey away days. Very tricky. But Stuttgart are playing well. I might say a score draw again. I'll go for a 1-1.
Wow, this is some of these Europa League ones are so hard to tip, aren't they? Like Fenerbahce away, you always think, but they've not got Mourinho. I would say it would have been a harder game if it was Mourinho because he would have really, he loved the big European nights, didn't he? I don't know. It's go on. I'm going to go for Stuttgart to win. I've been tipping them up quite a lot recently. I just think they're starting to come to. So I'll go for a 2-1 win here.
Okay, that'll be nice after the Basel result. Freiburg are at home to Utrecht. So I see that being a home win. Freiburg, generally speaking, very good in Europe. I will say 2-0 to the home side.
Yeah, Freiburg just love Europa League nights, don't they? And they're like consistently getting through these group stages comfortably. And so far, so good. I mean, they've got 4 points on the board already. And I agree. I think they'll get another 3 on the board here. I'm going to go for a 2-1. But I still think they'll get over the line and win this game as well.
2-1. Okay, yeah. And Mainz in the Conference League are at home to... I mean, how am I supposed to say this? Srinjski from Bosnia. I haven't got a clue who they are. Where are they? They are second in the Bosnian top division. I'll say Mainz. I think they need to bounce back. 2-1.
Yeah, good job on the pronunciation as well there. Yeah, I think it's a hard one. But yeah, you've got to fancy Mainz against these minnows, really, against teams from... I mean, I guess I don't like to use this expression, but you really could argue it's a farmers' league, really, the Bosnian league. So, yeah, I think I always tip, top 5 league teams to win. I think a 3-1 home win they should be able to get here, Mainz.
Perfect. Comical predictions over. That's the end of that, everyone. Great show. Great to be back on the Monday show and pod. So, Mark, close us up for this evening.
Yeah. So if you enjoyed what you saw, don't forget that we're not only a YouTube channel anymore. We're also a podcast as well. So check out Spotify and Apple and leave us a rating. And don't forget, we're also on all social media as well: X, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky at the Bundesliga Show. So yeah, we post all of the live games we get to and all the commentary on that as well. So yeah, check it out and give us a follow as well. So thank you very much, guys. It was a pleasure again, and we'll see you again later in the week for the fantasy and predictions. So yeah, thanks a lot, guys, and see you there. Ciao, ciao.
That's all.